Hello and welcome to my workbench today. What we have here is a car made by Carrera. It's an older car. I think they made this car about 20 years ago. It's out of production now as far as I know. It's a Porsche RSR, Porsche 911 RSR Turbo. It's got a very nice martini livery on it. It's an accurate historically correct scale model. I've had this car for a while and been meaning to do some work to it. So today we are going to do a little work to it. In my previous video I've trued up some urethane tires for it. I've got that done, and now I'm going to do something about this very disturbing, I wouldn't say ride height, but let's just say wheel to wheel well displacement. That rear wheel looks nicely tucked into the back flared out quarter panels. The front wheel looks like we've got some severe suspension drop there. Believe it or not, let me bring this up. That's the factory way that Carrera made this car. It's a nice looking car, but that really bothers me. It's the same on the other side. The only time you'll see a real Porsche 911, there we go. The only time you'll see a real Porsche 911 with that much space between the front wheel and the tire is after a catastrophic event. So I'm going to lower the body a little bit on the chassis to see if I can correct that. The only thing I've done also is I painted the driver's helmet. I put a base coat of red on it. Originally it was a white plain old cue ball helmet. And after going through some photos on the internet of this car in action during the day, I found a more accurate paint scheme, so I'll be doing that too. But we're looking at about a 1/4 inch of dead space in there that doesn't need to be. And by bringing the body down too, we'll be also lowering the center of gravity a little bit, which is always helpful on a slot car. So I'm going to get to work here. Let me show you something first. I can pop this body off. The reason they have so much space between the wheel and the wheel well is they've put a full interior in the car, and that sits like so. Hats off to them for having all of that great detail, but that full interior, what it does is it prevents that front of that body from being brought down any lower. So what we'll probably have to do is we'll probably have to cut this bottom panel out in order to drop that body down. So that's what I'm going to do now, and then we'll get back to filming and you'll see the improvement. I've successfully lowered the front of the body onto the chassis. It took a little bit of doing, but this is not the finished product. We still have to work on the interior piece and make it fit. However, as you remember before, we had quite a lot of space between the front wheel and the wheel arch, and that space is pretty much non-existent at this point. We reduced quite a bit. You can see how much lower that chassis sits in the body now. There's a lot of machining with plastic and a lot of removal and fitting and test fitting, and the body's been on and off about 50 times. But it came out pretty nice. I didn't want to go any lower because I didn't want to give it the illusion of having that back end raked up so much. The interior part As I said before, I cut out that bottom panel. You're really not going to notice that when you look in the car because the insides are pretty much dark and the frame is black anyway. So I'm going to test fit this next, and also show you what I did on the body to make it fit better. So to make this fit properly, I had to take a lot of plastic off, and I'll show you what I did. The front mount, I had to trim down a little bit, but I couldn't go too far with it because there's not much there to start with. And if you see to the left and the right of the front mount, there were some plastic, I don't know what you call those, bolsters or little structural support that kept the frame from sitting lower in the body. So I had to remove that material in order to tuck that frame down. They also had those on the side too, so I trimmed those away on both sides. The rear I left completely stock. Now on the frame, the rear mounting support, I just beveled like that. They had a pretty big lip that the body mount would sit in, and it was very difficult to get it on and off because once it was pressed into that depression there, it did not want to come out. So I trimmed that down just for ease of removal and test fitting. On the front, I lowered this mount down here by probably 2.5, 3 millimeters. In addition to that, I had to slightly put a little notch from here to here so that that would fit in the body better. Also, in addition, since I already had the interior out, I painted the gauges. I just gave the faces a little white, a little flat white to accent them. And here's a better view of Huis van Lennep in miniature. One more thing I forgot to mention that I did was I lost a little bit of weight on the chassis by removing the directional switch, the extra wiring, and the resistors that Carrera puts on their cars. If you plan on running your car both directions on your layout, clockwise and anti-clockwise, then you want to leave that in there. I do not. I run Suzuka in one direction, and so with that said, I removed that. You know, it's a little bit of weight, but these cars are pretty. The Carrera cars are pretty heavy to begin with, so every little bit helps. They are smooth, though, I'll tell you that. So I removed all of that and have simple wires coming from the guide flag up to the motor, and it works great. And we are done. We have successfully lowered the front end. And after I lowered it, I took a steel ruler and I measured both sides from the bottom of the car to the tech board to make sure that they were both even, so the car didn't sit cattywampus. So it's correct. They're both it's at 3 millimeters on both sides. Now I could have gone a little lower, but I did not want to give the car a lot of rake in the back. The 911 RSR, it sat pretty level, so I can get away with this and feel okay about it. The other thing I did, one of the drivers who drove this car, his name was Huis van Lennep, and he was known for having an orange crash helmet with a red and black stripe. So the initial figure that comes with this car. It's all white, and I painted the helmet red, but then did a little more research and found out that was incorrect. So I painted that properly, and also I painted the driver. I gave the driver a cream-colored suit instead of stark white, which is also historically accurate. So there's the car, and all that's left now is to screw the body on and take it for a drive. I've taken the 911 RSR Turbo out for a spin, and you know, I was actually kind of surprised. I managed to get down to an 8.4 with this car, which is really quick for a Carrera car on this track. Considering we did an 8.4 with the Spirit BMW 2002, which does weigh a little bit less too. So anyway, it was a fun build. Let me get down here. It sits properly, and that's what I wanted it to do. Thanks for watching, and we'll see what our next project is here at Oily Dog Racing. Bye-bye.